anybody who works with students to share content, or anyone who works with faculty or staff to share content. Um, Ally is a tool for ensuring accessibility of course content. And so on that note, Danae is going to tell you all about Ally.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. I am Danae. I am a digital accessibility specialist here at UNT Denton, and we are going to talk about the Ally tool. Ally is an accessibility tool that integrates into Canvas. But before we get there, here are some key terms that you'll see today. And I thought it would be good to start with a brief review of these terms you'll see in Ally. So my hope is that knowing these terms helps you to understand the report more clearly, especially for those new to digital accessibility. This may go quickly, but I'll pause for questions at the end of this slide. So if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask or drop them in the chat. So headings organize content and create structure, allowing screen reader users to navigate pages efficiently. A screen reader is a tool that assists blind students with interacting with digital content. Accessible lists should be created using actual bullet points, not dashes, so assistive technology recognizes them properly. Assistive technology is any tool that students with disabilities use to assist with accessing or interacting with content. Meaningful hyperlinks, which clearly describe the destination instead of using vague text like click here or those full URLs. Tables should be used for data only and include header rows so screen readers can interpret them correctly. Color contrast matters because not everyone perceives color the same way. So ensure strong contrast and never rely on color alone to convey meanings. Images require alternative text so screen reader users can access the descriptions. Audio and video should include captions to support users who are deaf or hard of hearing, as well as other learners. These elements form the foundations of accessible digital content. And that's a lot. We could do a whole hour presentation on these things alone. But if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. And Dr. Baba, if you don't mind, because I don't want to click on the screen and go away from the presentation, if there's questions, will you present them to me? So if you have any questions, you can unmute or drop them in the chat. Okay. So let's keep it moving. So today we're focusing on the Ally tool, but it's important to remember that there are other accessibility tools available to you, including Pope Tech and Canvas's built-in accessibility checker. Those tools allow you to review and fix issues page by page in Canvas. Ally, on the other hand, gives you a broader view. It lets you address similar issues in one place across multiple Canvas pages, which saves time. We also have tools that support creation of accessible content, including Equasio, which helps build accessible STEM materials. MathPix can convert inaccessible PDFs with STEM content and text-based PDFs into HTML pages. And Census Access can perform light remediation on simple text-only text-only PDFs, which can be useful for quick fixes. I emphasize simple and text-only because Census Access is an AI tool. It won't decipher complex tables, images, and infographics. For more complex PDFs, you can reach out to clear.compliance@unt.edu and we'll advise you on the best ways to make your complex PDFs accessible because it varies by document. That's one of the reasons why we advise to avoid using PDFs altogether because they are hard to make accessible. And one note that I want you to keep in mind is that these tools are AI driven, right? And they do have limitations. They're not 100% accurate. While they can save you time, they still require knowledgeable human evaluation. Later in the presentation, we'll look at some examples of these limitations so you know what to watch for when using Ally and similar accessibility checkers. Okay. And this is something we will touch on very briefly because you may have heard about the recent amendment to the Americans with Disabilities Act taking effect on April 24th, 2026. This update requires public entities to serve the public that serve the public to ensure that services, whether offered online or through mobile apps, are accessible. The Ally tool helps you move towards compliance by guiding you through content remediation. Okay, that was a lot. Any questions so far?
There's a question in the chat. It says, will you please provide the email for the point of contact?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
So clear.
responded with a link
Okay.
to the consultation. I think it's better to use a link to the consultation because we do have a team email, but that really helps us. Um, Instead of having an individual email to an individual person, we're a team of people, so we all see that, and that way, whoever is freer can assist.
So I did want to share a resource with you guys. I meant to share it earlier during the Foundations of Digital Accessibility slide, but this is a flyer we created for our GAD Day. GAD is Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And the flyer it's a checkpoint. You can read these questions and ask yourself, are these things within my course? We also have links to those tools I mentioned earlier. So Equagio, Census Access. You can click on those logos within that flyer and it'll take you to the tool. So I wanted to show you that, and we can keep going. So, what is Ally? Ally is a digital accessibility tool integrated with Canvas LMS. Ally helps make course content more accessible and inclusive for students with disabilities. In today's presentation, we'll explore the accessibility report generated by Ally and learn how to identify accessibility issues. So, who is Ally for? Ally is for instructors. It provides feedback and guidance on accessibility. It's for students. It offers alternative formats for content uploaded by faculty. It's for administrators. It provides data and insights that can be used to evaluate and improve overall accessibility across courses. Also, while alternative formats are primarily intended for students, instructors also have access to them, and we'll go over that a little bit later in the presentation. So there are three key features that we'll go over. The first one, well, later on in the presentation, we'll go over the alternative formats feature. We'll review the instructor feedback feature, which I'll have you open up on your own if you have access to Canvas. And it guides the instructors on how to improve the accessibility content within their course. Um, and then we'll also go over the course accessibility report, which will give you an overall percentage of your course's content rating, accessibility rating. So how to access your course accessibility report. And as I'm going through this, you can open up Canvas and walk through these steps on your own if you like. And you can put any results that you want to share in the chat and we can answer questions or just talk about what you see within your accessibility report. The Ally Course Accessibility Report can be opened by selecting the tab in the left-hand navigation menu of your Canvas course. If the tab is not visible, you can contact clear.compliance@unt.edu, and I can drop that here. And that is our email address. Excuse me. So after you select the tab, the accessibility report will open. The screen that I'm showing you now as an example offers a Snapchat. That's where my mind is. A snapshot of your course's accessibility score and how it is evaluated. Students do not have access to this report. In this example, the score is 87%. The screen allows you to review specific accessibility issues and begin making updates directly from the report view. The report organizes remediation in three different ways. First, you can review content with the easiest issues to fix using the Start button under the text, Content with the easiest issues to fix. This is helpful if you want to start with quick corrections. Another way you can begin remediating is looking at the low scoring content, which is the content that is going to enhance your accessibility percentage the quickest. Um, and you can start that by clicking the Start button under the text, Fix Low Scoring Content, which is here. This helps identify areas where accessibility improvements may have a larger impact on your overall score. Third, you can view a list of items associated with a specific accessibility issue. This is useful if you prefer to address one type of issue at a time. So this is that list here. Beneath the main dashboard, there is a table that displays the severity of how accessible content is, the type of accessibility issue. For instance, one type of issue is the image does not have a description, which is basically saying that your images don't have alternative text. The table also includes number of items affected within that type of issue. And so this basically allows you to batch remediate it in a sense so that you can see multiple um, issues within that, not multiple issues, multiple content um, within that same issue. So see in this image, the first issue is the image does not have a description, right? And there's 19 content affected by that. So you can click on that first option and it'll take you to the list of 19 items that need to be remediated. So the idea is that this will speed up the process in making remediations for your content. So let's review another way to view items. Under the course title, select the Content tab to view a complete list of all items included in the accessibility report, which is all content within the Canvas shell, even the unpublished content. This view shows each item's title, the number of issues needed to be fixed within that item, and its accessibility score. So in this view, you'll see all content that is being considered within that overall percentage. And we'll look at an example, a live example in a bit. But this shows you all images, all files within your course. So let's say you have files or documents that are unpublished and you're not using within your course. It's best to remove those if you can. If you need to keep those there for a reference or you need it for another class or you need it for later, don't delete it. But if there's files and images within your course that's unpublished and not being used, um, Ally is going to review that content too, and that's going to affect your percentage rate. So it's best to remove those out of your file section. Okay. So for each individual file or content item, The tool provides feedback on how to make the content accessible. This includes an accessibility score and indicator gauge, a complete list of identified accessibility issues, guidance on what the issues are and how to resolve them. So when you open up your Canvas course, you'll begin to see these gauges, right? And they'll be next to images, files, and the gauge within your Canvas page will be at the top right corner when you are editing. And you'll be able to select that icon and it'll show you things you could remediate on that Canvas page. So instructors will see group gauge icons while editing content in Canvas pages next to documents and images. These icons are hidden from students and help faculty identify items that may need accessibility review. You can click on the gauges to review and remediate the content. Select the gauge indicator for the content item you wish to review. The example on the screen shows the gauge icons next to the content in the modules list view. So you'll also see icons within the modules list view as well. You'll see them in Canvas pages and in the modules list view. The gauge indicators are red, orange, and green. Red indicators mean there are major accessibility issues that need to be remediated. Orange indicators mean that there are minor issues associated. And green indicator typically means there are very minor to no accessibility issues. Now, remember earlier I said this was an AI tool. Sometimes the green indicators are false positives, if you will. The Ally tool will say it's accessible, but really it needs more remediation, right? And there is a note you'll see within the Ally tool, and we'll take a look that says it's accessible, but more remediation may be needed. So keep that in mind when you're making changes that the green gauge can sometimes be a false positive. So this is, I just went on a rant and in the script it said, this is a good place for me to be very candid with you. Anyhow, um, so after you select the accessibility indicator, the instructor feedback panel will open. So this is a good place for me to actually go into Canvas. So I am going to stop sharing very quickly. Okay. Is my screen visible? Yes. Okay, great. So this is my practice course. I do a lot of accessibility testing here. So I purposefully make inaccessible content so that I can figure out how to remediate it accurately and more efficiently. So when you open up Canvas, the tab that I mentioned earlier is going to be on the left side of the screen. It says Ally Course Accessibility Report. You'll click on that and it should take you to this screen here, right? So in this report, here's that the easy fixes that we mentioned earlier, the hard fixes, if you will, or the low scoring content that's going to boost that accessibility percentage up. But it basically shows you everything that's being reviewed within your accessibility report. Right. So in this practice course, I have 92 pages, right? 20 quizzes, 16 PDF documents. You would think that as much as we test PDF documents, it would be higher than that, but 16 PDF documents. Um, and I'm coming in at an 86%, which I guess it's pretty good. What's that, a B? A B plus, maybe? Um, so in this table, we mentioned that we could batch remediate, if you will. I don't know if that's the right term, but basically you'll see every image, well, the issue that's in the first row is images that don't have descriptions, right? And so there's 21 images that doesn't have descriptions within this practice course. So it takes you to that list of images that don't have um, alternative text. And I know last week I got a question about, will this tool help you write alternative text? And it will, but remember this is AI, and so we have to double check those AI generated descriptions. So that's one way to look at it. That second way is that content tab where you'll see everything within your course being reviewed, right? So it'll start with the lowest ranking content, but as you click through the tabs, if you go to the last tab, you'll see that it gets better. Not everything is going to be inaccessible, right? So hopefully you have some 100% in there somewhere. So I created a module with a few examples of how the tool works, right? So this first example is a PDF. PDFs. So this is actually an article that's available online. So when you have articles that's available online, it's best to just link out to those articles. This is going to help with accessibility and copyright, right? And so I wanted to show this as an example because we see a lot of this when we're reviewing online courses. You can't just take an article from online and stuff it in Canvas. I know that sounds harsh, but you can't do that. Link out because that's going to help with not only copyright infringement, but accessibility as well. So in this case, we'll open up Ally, but don't do this. This is bad. It's like I'm talking to my puppy. Um, so, and I did not mean to offend anyone. Um, so when you click on the gauge, you want to select all issues, right? And it's going to bring up a list of things that needs to be fixed within the document. And this is saying that it's untagged, right? It's saying that you can set the language and it's saying fix here. So there are some things that you can do within the Ally tool to remediate PDFs. But there's four things here, right? And you can only fix two. So it'll still, even though you can fix it in the Ally tool, what you really want to do is fix the PDF before uploading it into Canvas. And that way, you'll have less issues. I won't say you won't have any issues, but you'll have less issues. But remember to make those edits before uploading your documents into Canvas. So the first issue, it says the PDF is untagged, right? It won't allow you to tag the PDF here, but you can go into Adobe, tag it, and then upload it. We have instructions on our Clear website. Let's see. I will, and I'm sorry for getting off task here, but I want to share this resource with you. I guess I'll share the whole web page with you. But there is a tab for um, editing your PDFs and Word documents. Okay, so let me go back. So I pasted that resource in the chat. Excuse the full URL. I apologize. So let's go to the next example. So this next example is another PDF. It is a journal article, and this is actually available in the UNT library. It's also open access. I think it's CC. Let's see. Let's read that caption. Chaz is here. I don't want to mess this up. Um, Creative Commons attribution, non-commercial, no derivative. So we can't use this for profit. We can't change it. But even though we have, permissions to upload it with the attribution, it'll still be more accessible if you linked out through the library, right? And so, yes, you could probably make this accessible. Yes, you could probably make edits, but it's just best to find the articles that you want within the library and link out through the library for copyright reasons. And then, if you must, store this accessible version in the file section for students who needs the accessible version. As you can see, this is coming in green, so that's good. Let's click on that and see what is Ally saying about this document. It's saying 100%, so that is good. But this was a article from the library's website. So let's go to the next example, which is generating alt text using Ally, which is a big deal. I think this is pretty cool. But I'm going to show you a good example, and I'm going to show you a bad example, just for you to see how important it is to review what the AI tool is generating, what descriptions it's generating. So here's the Ally icon. If you click on that, it'll open the instructor feedback dashboard, if you will, right? And so you'll see, this image does not have a meaningful description, what it means, how to write a good description. And you can click on those and it'll give you some good feedback there. But basically, you want to write a description of photos that is going to give context to students based on the learning objectives, right? Um, and so you could write your own, click in that text box and write a brief description, or you can select the auto generate description option, right? And so for this image, excuse me, um, it has come up with 8 simple line icons representing art gallery elements, painting, exhibit, spotlight, profile, ID badge, rope barrier, bus sculpture, and guide with visitors. I think that's pretty good for it to be an AI. It needs to be stick figures. I think that's awesome. So I'm going to select save, right? And now this image has alternative text. So let's go to this second image and see that that red gauge turned to green to indicate, hey, it's fixed now. You're doing awesome. Keep going. And so here's another image. Right, during COVID, we had to use a lot of hand sanitizer. And so I don't know how I found this image. I don't know. But let's see. Let's see what the auto generation description is. It takes a few seconds. Okay. And so this description it's wrong, right? It says a hand with dark nail polish. Well, that's actually accurate. Holds a medical vial. That's hand sanitizer. It's not a medical vial. Dispensing liquid into another person's outreach palm. Um, to me, that looks like the same person, just applying hand sanitizer on their hands. So this is inaccurate. So when you're using that description, the auto generate description feature, you want to just double check to make sure it's accurate because it's not always accurate. So we can just say hands applying hand sanitizer, right? And save. And again, that percentage will change. Okay. So that is the adding alt text automatically using Ally. And I think that feature is going to be really handy for faculty because faculty have a lot of images sometimes. And so this is going to save you a lot of time. You just want to make sure they're accurate. And so this is a Word document. I've showed you PDFs. I wanted to show you Word documents as well. Now let's see what this is saying. So, remember we mentioned those foundations of digital accessibility, right? So we mentioned having an actual list and not dashes, having headers within the document, having alternative text for images. So I purposefully made this document inaccessible to see how Ally would react to the document. Let's see what happens. So I'll select all issues. So I personally like seeing all the issues within the document. I don't want to do it individually. So I'll select that all issues button in the top right corner. So it says this document contains images without description. Unfortunately, it won't allow you to add the descriptions to images within a document within Ally. But Word does have that same feature. So you'll have to remediate the Word document using the accessibility checker in Microsoft, and then re-upload the document after you've made the changes, right? It says this document does not have headings, and the document contains tables that are missing headers. None of those fix here buttons. Notice it probably has something to do with Microsoft laws. They're really strict over there, but what you want to do, and I don't know if you'll see this. Can you see this screen here? The Microsoft Word screen? Yes? No? Okay. Um, well, I was going to show you the document. Let's see.
And also, Daniel, while you're looking for your document, we also have a comment in the chat from Lisa Welch about showing an example of alternate text for a complex diagram that's showing a process. Do you have also examples? I don't think you provided those here, but I guess some of our faculty might be curious about how would Ally treat complex images, bar charts, diagrams, and things like that.
You know what? I have one. I have one later on, but it's not necessarily complex, but it is handwritten math content. I would consider that complex.
Yes.
Um, and that's a good example. I can't think of an infographic that I know where that's stored on my computer that I can share. But let's open up that Word document, um, and share. Okay, now can you see the Word document? Yes. Is the Word document being shared on the screen? Okay, cool beans. So you want to make those edits here. And this is tricky because remember we talked about headings and list. Microsoft also has an accessibility checker, but again, it's AI, so it's not going to catch everything. So it's important that we become knowledgeable about the foundations of digital accessibility so that we know when we're looking at a document, oh, this isn't right. We need to change this to a bulleted list, right? Because not all AI tools are going to catch it. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back actually. Let's just reverse that and select review, check accessibility. And remember in Ally, it was saying, this document doesn't have headings. It's not catching those lists. And this is only telling you about the missing alternative text. So like I was saying before, it's important to just kind of know those foundations of accessibility so that when you're looking at the document, even though you have the support of an accessibility checker, you know what needs to be fixed within the document. But I'll show you how to add headings within a Word document because I think fixing the list, we know how to fix a list, right? I think we know how to add the alternative text, but headings can be a little tricky because there's a specific order that headings should be in, right? So I think you go to home and style. So you want to put your cursor or highlight the headings, right? And this would be a heading one. Let's just say a heading one. So when you select the styles option under the home tab, there will be a a text box that comes up on the right side of the screen, and you'll be able to select which heading it is. So this is a heading one, right? I think heading two could be, well-organized content, right? We'll go ahead and fix this list because we know dashes aren't appropriate list. Let's see. Um, Remove those dashes so we could replace the dash with the space. Okay. Add alternative text. The easiest way to add alternative text within a Word document, view alt text, and then on the right of the screen, the alt text box will apply and you can write a description. But again, Word has that same feature where you can generate alt text for your Word document. And I'm sorry, I know this isn't a Microsoft training, but it's so important to make changes to your source file before uploading it into Canvas, before Ally even touches it. So then that way, it's more accessible from the jump, right? And so this alt text for this image is a photograph of a white wireless computer keyboard on a wooden surface showing standard QWERTY layout. That's pretty, that actually is pretty good. Um, a bit descriptive for just a keyboard, but hey, you can also generate content or descriptions for your images within Word documents automatically. So select approve and it'll remove that, that message saying if this is AI generated, you need to check it for accuracy and then go on with your life, right? Um, Here, and that's how you add headings. Any questions? And I'll get out of this before I go on the rant.
Danae, there are a couple questions in the chat, and then Laura Barrios has her hand raised.
Okay. Let's look at the questions within the chat. Where do you access styles again? That is in the Home tab within Microsoft. So let's see.
I will attempt to respond to one of the questions there. I should have probably, I will admit, I should have probably be more prepared to one of the questions, but I really don't know. I mean, it's tricky. The scores, what is the ideal score that you need in Ally to prepare for April? The answer is there is not I would say aim for 100% if you can, with the caveats. Ally is AI driven. It will scan everything, including non files that are not available to students, which could bring your score down to even 60%, even if your course is perfect. Everything that's student facing is perfect. I would say aim for as high of a score as possible. Also knowing there are some like with all auto-generated, AI-driven tools, there are some pros and cons that Danae will show you later. We don't really have, I wouldn't say that we have a recommendation for a minimum score because again, 80% could look very different in one course compared to 80% in another course. This tool is really a guideline for you to look at the course level and see where are your easy fixes and save you time. Because before Ally, you had to literally go page by page, hand by hand. It takes way longer without Ally to make a course more accessible. With Ally, the idea is that you can look at a snapshot of your overall course dashboard and really focus on, for example, the easy fixes or all the fixes that have lower scores. You really have everything on a 20,000 feet view, which hopefully will make your remediation a little faster. But again, having said that, I'm not sure I would recommend a minimum score because again, one course score might look very different from another course score. Again, with also some of the limitation the tool comes with, which is again, I think I still find it really helpful. And in my experience, having tried that, I can fix things more faster, definitely faster with Ally. But again, I wouldn't. The only thing I would recommend saying is aim for your score to be as high as you can, and maybe start with the easy fixes, the low hanging fruit.
Yeah, I agree. I
Thank
think
you.
the
Sure.
I think the percentage is a great indicator of where you are in on the accessibility scale or how accessible your course is. However, I don't think we should just rely too heavily on it because this is an AI tool, right? It's going to give false positives, it's going to give false negatives as well. The key is to creating content accessibly from the beginning before uploading it into Canvas. But this tool is designed to help you, catch those accessibility issues if you aren't an accessibility specialist, which it's difficult. It's difficult. Um, so I can stop sharing this actually. Lily answered that question. And thank you so much, Lily. Um, so I see a question. So I just want to confirm that normal headers in the document do not count as a header for Ally. It has to be done with the style tool, correct? So normal header. So if it's a normal header, it was done using the style tool. Bolded text that indicates a section within the document, it's good for us as visual people, but someone using assistive technology it's not going to indicate that that text is bolded and it's a header. So you have to use the
Mm.
the style tool. Okay, so we can hop
Can I,
back
can I
into,
just, so what I'm talking about is like, I have like a lot of documents that have headers on them because it's paperwork. So like each page has the same header. That does not count. And I need to also, in each document, create a header, like using the style tool.
yeah, so you're talking about maybe like a footnote or hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure how Ally handles those within a document, honestly. I will have to review and get back to you.
Uh, uh, oh,
Uh-uh.
okay. I can
Let's
email
see.
you later.
Okay.
Are you talking about headers and footers? I see that Chaz provided a comment in the chat.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
talking about
headers and
like headers and
Headers.
footers, because I
Okay,
use
yeah,
headers
okay.
all the time in all my documents that are for everything.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
do I have to make those in the style a header in order for it to count as a header?
No, it's something different. Headings are titles. So I use style for that. So it's different from a header. I know they seem like it's almost like
Yeah.
the same terminology. Now, for example, when you provide a title to a Word document, let's say course syllabus, LTech 1100 course syllabus. Usually that's the title for your document, right? And, best practice for accessibility, where we recommend that you use the styles from the home tab to mark that as a heading level one. A heading level one is really a title for the document. And then maybe you have course information or instructor information. That's heading level two. And so header is something different. I know what you mean, but that's different. You can use a header, and it shouldn't affect accessibility unless in your head you have maybe an image without an alt text, for example, just the usual things that could maybe trigger an accessibility warning. But headers per se are not good or bad.
Okay.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure how Ally is going to handle those headers and footers. I will have to do some testing in my practice course. But let's get back on track. Alternative formats, which is a feature that gives students multiple ways to interact with their course content. It allows students to choose how they access materials and supports a range of learning needs, preferences, abilities, and devices. Although it is primarily intended for student use, instructors also have access to these options. So, um, I think the best features for faculty, and this is just my personal opinion, after you've used it, you'll be able to figure out, how to best make it work for you. I think one good feature for faculty is, and you have to be careful because again, this is AI tools, right? But you can save, and this is so contradictory to what I've said before, but I know some faculty like to do this. So this is a feature that can work. You can save your PowerPoints as PDFs, tagged PDFs. So if it's a simple, straightforward PowerPoint that doesn't have a lot of complex images, you can save it as a tagged PDF. I know faculty like to do that. I don't know why, but that's a good feature to use for the alternative formats in Ally. So if you upload your PowerPoint into Canvas, you can save it as a tag PDF. Another cool feature that I think is worth mentioning is the audio, a spoken word version of the content. It's typically provided as an MP3. Um, and there's a lot of other options that I think are probably best for students' use. And so I just remembered that I didn't answer the complex image question. And so I'm going to go back to the examples because I had a few more examples in Canvas, but this is the alternative format feature, right? And so these are the options that can be translated based on the documents you upload, documents that you have the right to upload, and documents that you've created, or actual Canvas pages can also be translated into alternative formats. Okay, so going back to those examples. Okay, we're back, right? Can you see the Canvas shell on the screen? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so this is that math example that I was telling you guys about, and this isn't
Mm.
necessarily a complex image, right? But
Yeah, it
because it
is. That is
isn't,
pretty complex.
it's pretty complex.
Mm-hmm.
This is an image, right? And so Ally is going to treat it as such. It's going to tell you to just add the alternative text. And so let's see what the auto alt text would be for this one. Right? And so handwritten math, right? Equations showing the step-by-step derivative, a STEM person could pronounce that word, of the quadratic formula from the general form, AX 2 plus BX plus C equals 0. And as we can see, it's more equations here other than just that one, right? So in order to actually fix this this content, it would be more than just adding alternative text, even though Ally is telling you to just add alternative text. And even if we select save, and I'm only doing this as an example, it's going to increase that percentage from a 25 to a 100%, and that's not accurate. And that's one of those false positives I was telling you about, right? But in order to actually make this accessible, I'll show you very quickly. Um, because it takes some work. But you'll need that Equatio tool I was talking about right earlier. And there is a Google extension that you can use, and I have it here on my computer, so I'll open that up. So we'll open up the Equatio extension. We'll select the screenshot tool, which has um, there's a a dashed box around um, the Sigma sign. I call it Sigma sign because I'm gonna say it's probably a more precise term for that. Um, so there will be um an X mark that comes up so that you can draw, you know, a box around the math content. And so you'll screenshot that content. And this isn't the entire image because right now I can't see the entire image. Well, you know what? Let's exit the editing. And then that way I can grab the entire image, right? And so I'll open up that screen reader tool, not screen reader tool, the screenshot tool within Equatio. I will screenshot that. And what Equatio allows you to do is create the LaTeX or the MathML that you can paste into the equation editor, right? And so you'll select the three dots, the menu button, select copy LaTeX. We can go ahead and close that, and then we'll go back into editing. And we can keep the image there, but under that, you want to put the cursor where you want the math to show up, right? Select the Insert tab within the toolbar, select Equation. Make sure that the button that says Directly Edit LaTeX is on, and then you will paste the LaTeX in the text box provided, right? Select Done, and that math content is now there. Now, this is math content that will be compatible with a screen reader opposed to an image that doesn't have the accurate alt text. But I wanted to show you that because it says it's 100%, but we know that's not true, right? And I guess that would be the same for a complex graphic. Hmm. I'm wondering if
Can I ask you a question about Equatio?
you sure can.
So I like that how it converted the equation like handwritten into the typed LaTeX version. So I'm assuming because it's AI, there may be mistakes sometimes because this was a very simple example of how
Oh
we
yeah, for
have
sure.
to write in a calculus 2 question, right? That goes 2 or 3 pages, like
Hmm.
these equations. So would we be, I mean, and it's very difficult to type all that material in a mathematical equation. So I sometimes use a Word document equation. Will that be accessible? That's my first question.
Yeah, so in Word documents, you can put it in a Word document, but you'll still have to use the equation um, editor. However, if you paste, I believe, the math and mail directly into a Microsoft Word document, it's going to automatically use the equation editor. And you know what? If you want to email me, we can talk more about Equagio
Yeah,
for
I would,
sure.
okay, yeah, I would love to talk to you personally about Equasia.
And here's my email for everyone in the chat. If you have questions related to the other accessibility tools we mentioned, we can chat more about that.
Thank you so much.
Because yeah, and you're right, it's not always accurate. You have to kind of review it and maybe even edit the LaTeX sometimes when you are copying and pasting it into the equation editor.
Danae,
Yes, ma'am.
we have a few questions in the chat. I know we only have about 6 minutes left. Is this a good time, or do you want to finish where you're at?
So let me just finish the last slide in the presentation. I was going to show you a Canvas page and how Ally handles Canvas pages. I'll do that briefly. So in order to get to the instructor feedback guide, the Ally instructor feedback guide, that gauge is going to be top right corner there, okay? And it's the same as when you're, reviewing those documents, you'll have the options to look at all issues and fix those things within the Ally tool. Okay, so there is one slide that I want to go over. That's the last slide because it's editing tips. Um, and so let's see. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes, okay. So these are my final words of encouragement. Build content with accessibility in mind from the start. Remove unpublished files and images to boost the accessibility score. So if they're unpublished and you're not using them and you don't need them, just go ahead and clean up your file section. And that's going to increase your accessibility score. But again, you don't want to lean so heavily on the accessibility score because the overall goal is to just make sure your content is accessible. And the percentage is there to encourage you. Um, you want to correct the original source file for any document. I probably said that 20 times during this presentation, but before you upload it into Canvas, run those accessibility checkers. In Adobe, you can auto tag documents, and that helps them to be more accessible as well. I don't think I mentioned that. Excuse me. Any document you link to as a replacement should also be accessible. So if you're linking out, remember I told you if you don't have the right to use it or embed it into your course, you want to link out, but make sure you're linking out to an accessible version. So many caveats, right? Check all hyperlinks. Ally flags inactive links, but does not verify accuracy. Add headings to Canvas pages and documents. Review AI generated image descriptions for accuracy. And remember, AI tools are not fully accurate. All content requires human review. And I probably did that slide just so that I could read the last bullet point, but let's review the questions. Um, so
The one about the video recording, Dr. Baba, are we going to send this out in the email to everyone who attended?
Yes, we'll be sending it out to everyone that attended.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Danae, do you want me to read the questions?
yes, please, Aubrey.
Okay,
I love your glasses, by the way. Those are cool.
thank you. Tanya has answered quite a few of them.
I see that. Thank you, Tanya.
Lisa asked, how do you get to the alternative formats?
Alternative formats,
That was
yes.
answered a long time ago. Oh,
Okay,
no.
okay.
The styles, or did the other Lisa ask that? Sorry.
Um,
I believe that was Lisa Welch asked that. That's right.
Okay, so
so the alternative formats has, and I'll show you. Let's just try and share my screen. Let's do
Yeah, it
this.
might help to share the screen because I also answered Jonetta Hudson's question, which was the same question. I described the icon, but I think it's more
Yeah,
intuitive if people actually see how the icon looks like.
yeah, I think I ran out of time. That was in the presentation. I'm sorry, you guys. So to access alternative text, you'll see an icon. There's a with a downward arrow next to it. You would select that and it'll show up in Canvas pages. And let's say you have a Canvas page and there's a document embedded into that Canvas page. You'll get the option to select either the Canvas page you want to alternative format for or the document within the Canvas page you want to alternative format for. So we'll say, let's get an alternative format for the Lunch and Learn series PowerPoint, right? And you want it as a tagged PDF. I don't know why anyone would do that, but let's go for it. You know what? No, because that is going to take forever to download. Let's do an HTML page. Let's see how that works. And so you would select download, it'll download, and this is the outcome. Now, this has turned it into an HTML page. It did pretty okay. This is actually pretty good. However, um, we want to make sure those images have alternative text within the PowerPoint, so then that way, hopefully those alternative texts are translated into the alternative format. But that is how you get to the alternative formats. You'll see this icon next to um, Canvas pages and next to documents as well.
My question is, how will students see the alternative text?
It's the same way. It'll be next to the titles of Canvas pages and documents.
So they will know to click on that icon.
I'm not sure if they'll know, but hopefully they're intuitive and will click on it and be, want to get the alternative format. But it's there for students to see. It is. That's probably one of the only things they can see related to the Ally tool because they can't see the gauges, right? I don't believe they can see the tab on the left screen. As a matter of fact, I know they can't. So yes, it'll be there for them.
And yet, Danae, to your point on the beginning of the call, you said students will not be able to see the scores, right? I think that was an important piece of information. But I know we also had faculty join the call a little later. So again, to reassure you all, what students will have access to is the alternative formats. That way they can download the content in their preferred formats, which is, I guess, what we want. But again, if you're worried about students seeing 68% on your course, don't worry, they will not be able to see that. And even on my end, I will just dispel this myth. If you see like 68%, for example, again, don't panic. It may be that you have a lot of internal documents that you use in your class, but not student facing. But really, what you're showing to the students is in pretty good shape. So again, the score is a guideline. I would look less at the scores and more at maybe the dashboard, the easy fixes, or maybe those items are really low score and just focusing on those. I just find it to be a tool that might help you remediate your course and helping you take less time in remediating the course than you would otherwise do if you didn't have a dashboard available.
And I know we're just over time, so I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I have put a link to our future events this spring in the chat. If you have additional questions and you want to stay on, we can stay on for a few more minutes. But I just wanted to say thank you all for being here on this Monday morning. And please don't hesitate to reach out using the consultation form that Tanya linked to earlier, if you'd like to speak with anyone from CLEAR. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, I'm very quick. It may be very naive, but I was understanding that we shouldn't be posting PDFs, or I don't know, maybe I'm confused. I create Word document and then convert them into PDF. So I shouldn't be doing